You are listening to the Global CTE podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where we want to wrap a blanket of goodwill around the career tech education community, and we highlight the best, the brightest, the innovators, the movers, the shakers, and today is no different as it relates to our guest. Let me tell you about Jeff Cochran. Jeff is an esteemed educational leader serving as the Director of Future Learning in the Sela School District in the state of Washington. With the passion for student success, Cochran plays a pivotal role in shaping the district's vision and strategy for CTE programs and future-driven projects spanning from pre-K to 12th grade. Under Jeff's leadership, there has been a 60% increase in CTE course enrollment since taking over the rural high school program. His steadfast belief in the transformative power of integrating CTE concepts and mindsets throughout the public school system drives his mission to enhance student achievement and prepare them for a rapidly changing world. Under Cochran's leadership, the Sela School District has become a model for CTE integration. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm super pumped and excited about this conversation. Little backstory. Let me start with a little backstory. Jeff and I come into contact because we're both on the America Succeeds Durable Skills Advisory Committee for educators across the country. And we're really all about trying to prepare these students for success with the right skills. And Jeff's name kept popping up. People were like, man, you got to talk to Jeff. You got to talk to Jeff. So this integrating CTE, I can't wait to dive into it, man. But let's start with your origin story, man. How do you get here?
Sylvester, that's a really good question. My mom was an educator. She was an elementary teacher. And if we go all the way back, I've always loved building things. And I was like a Lego freak as a kid, but I went into college thinking I wanted to be a school counselor, wanted to help kids get them where they needed to go in the future. But as I went through the process, realized that I wasn't going to have enough impact as a school counselor on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to have a huge impact on number of kids. So I went into believe it or not, this is crazy. I taught English.
Wow. Okay.
I wasn't a CTE guy. I didn't really find that until later, but as an English teacher, I was all about innovation and finding new ways to connect kids to the real world and things that are outside of the norm. So what I was most passionate about then is the same thing I'm most passionate about now, is finding that hook, finding that thing that kids enjoy, kids love, kids want to do in their future. And so later in my career, I became an administrator, and CTE always had this place where I didn't really understand it. It was always kind of kids were othered and put there instead of here. It was college or career. There's that and word in there, college and career, but kids don't hear that. Parents don't hear that. And so I started believing that, hey, every kid's going to have a career in their life. So let's stop saying college and career or college or career. It's every kid's going to have a career. Let's go all in on that. And we've had a lot of success in Sela, and that bio is really nice. It makes me sound like this amazing person, but my dad always says that the greatest form of leadership is allowing. I have a great team of teachers, and then a great team of administrators who I work with, who we come up with great ideas, and my job is to really remove barriers so that they can be successful.
I love how you said that. Shout out to Dad for that wisdom, because that's powerful, man. I wish more people thought like that and think we instead of me or I. But with that said, that spirit of collaboration, talk to me about CTE integration and some of the work you all are doing at Sela.
Yeah. So in Sela, one of the things that we do that I think is unique is that from top down, superintendent all the way through preschool teachers and paraprofessionals, we integrate our CTE pathway work all the way down through preschool. So we do it through specialists in the elementary level, and then our counselors with the career connected pieces. So we actually we use some products that offer things in both English and Spanish, because we have a dual language program.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 8 different pathways. We do things a little bit differently. We don't follow all of the the national pathways. We let our students vote. And our most recent pathway, we had marketing and hospitality put together, but students said, hey, those don't make as much sense together, so we split them, and we have business and marketing, kind of the typical business and marketing pathway, but then we split into hospitality as its own, because students have really been, we call it voting with their feet. So we really went all in on splitting that. Now, what we did with the integration piece is we look at our pathways that we have kind of at the high school, middle, and high school level, and we figure out ways that we can integrate those skills in our lower grades. And in SELA, we have a kindergarten building, we have a 1-2 building, and we have a 3-5 building. And then, of course, our middle and high school. And in those buildings, we identified health science and ag science as our pathways that were missing instruction in the classroom in K, basically pre-K through 5. We were missing those pathways. So we went all in on, hey, let's have our high school teachers instruct. Let's send our high school students down and we do like an ag day. We're planning on doing an engineering day at all these buildings. And then we have our, of course, early childhood education there in those buildings all the time, those students. So we're really,
hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. So you're telling me, so we're running something that most people may understand more like in the high schools with the ag program, with curriculum and such, but then you're taking those students to the 5th graders and to the elementary kids, and they're teaching lessons. Talk to me more about that part.
Yeah. So that's exactly what we're doing. So we're taking our ag science students. They might be in a animal science class, and they're learning about growth cycles of animals. And so we're rural, but I mean, our kids don't think they're rural, right?
Okay.
So we did an ag day. We've done it now for 3 years. So we added and we had students come out. They learned about growth cycle of seeds, how plants grow. And this is at the pre-K building. Then they taught about animals. They actually brought animals down and did like a farm, like a zoo. They called it a ag zoo or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, the integration into the specialist courses, those students come in and they can almost be like TAs in those courses. So what we do is we take we invite all the students in that pathway. And we ended up taking probably 90%. So we had some criteria. Hey, you have to have a good attendance. You have to have decent grades. But here's the other thing is using grades as an indicator of learning. I don't think is maybe the best method. We have some kids who aren't doing really well in class who flourished when they were in front of kids. So
man, I think that comment there is the future of education. If we can figure that part out, it's more about getting more people to buy into it at the administrative level, to understand how to recognize it and verify learning in other ways other than just a grade. So you doing anything with like competency based stuff or?
Yeah, so we're a standards based system.
Okay.
And then this is kind of groundbreaking. So this is fresh, hot off the press.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yep.
Breaking news. Go for
it. So we started working, we're taking the durable skills piece that you and I are a part of. We call them future ready skills. It's part of my title, I guess. So it makes sense that's kind of what we're driven to. But what we've done is with our leadership team in the district, this is teachers, paras, administrators across the whole district. We took what we believe it's you've probably heard of the oh gosh, it's the uh, why am I blanking on the name? Portrait of a Graduate.
Portrait.
Um,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people have
Like
portrait
the
of a graduate and then you don't do anything with it, right? It goes on the wall,
uh-huh.
it looks pretty, and that drives me nuts. Like if we're going to work on something, we need it to be valuable and meaningful to mostly to kids. Not, it doesn't need to, the teachers kind of know what they're supposed to do, but the students have to really understand what it means. So with this leadership team, we're developing, and that's why it's hot off the press. We're developing a rubric essentially. What does it mean to be resilient at the pre-K level? So when you leave your pre-K building, what does it mean to be resilient? And then what's that through line all the way to high school in each building? What does it mean to be resilient, proficiency in resiliency? Now, the groundbreaking, crazy part that we're doing, we're teaching all of our standards through those skills instead of the other way around. So you know how a lot of people talk, they say, "Oh, I'm teaching this unit," and kids are collaborating as a part of this unit. No, we're explicitly teaching collaboration
Mm-hmm.
through the unit rather than teaching the unit and then kids just happen to pick up collaboration.
You know what's so interesting about what you're saying? In the previous podcast, I had my friend Petri Elo on, who's from Finland, and that was the big part of our conversation, is that the skill is first. That's how they approach it, fully and completely, like what you just said. This is one of the top education systems in the world. He was like, okay, if we're saying, like you said, collaboration, that's the skill we have to check the box on. How Jeff decides to get there and how Sylvester decides to get there as the teacher, it's totally up to you. The ball's in your court, so you can personalize the learning, or, you know, retrofit it to your class or your students, or your particular environment. But the most important is starting with the skill. Yeah, starting with the skill.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm, man, I like that. I like that. Talk to me though about that resilience. I'm curious. Have you all expanded on the framework yet? Like, what? Give me some examples. What does resilience look like in pre-K or middle school or high school? Or if you have any insights to share, I'm curious.
Yeah. So we came up with a statement, and that's really what's from our portrait of a graduate that was developed with business leaders, community members, all of that, of course. The whole process, kind of that typical. A lot of schools are now doing that. But within that, we had words like growth mindset, grit,
Mhm,
and goal setting in our resiliency pieces.
mhm.
Um, and so then we broke it down into, okay, growth mindset, grit, and goal setting, and came up with statements. So for growth mindset, in the pre-K through 2, students participate in adult-led activities that explore areas outside their interests and comfort zones. Pretty
Yeah,
simple. And it leads all the way up to 9-12. Students accomplish things that they might not have thought possible,
yeah,
right? So you see it's adult-led and then student-led as it goes
yeah.
through the system.
And I like that. I think you really. I hope everyone is listening to how it sounds so simple, but it makes a massive impact when you say, like, no, we're gonna flip it and not just say, like, oh, what are we doing here? But let's be more intentional about that. You brought it up. I was gonna ask it later. I feel like you're looking at my show notes, but you brought it up. One of your keynote presentations, let them vote with their feet,
Yeah.
valuing student experience as evidence, like in that whole CTE friendly interest based scheduling. Like, talk to me more about that process of letting the students vote, where you said you shifted that marketing and hospitality class. Like, what's the process look like?
Well, a huge shout out to my former superintendent Shane Backlund and high school principal Colton Monty. So those two, along with me, we partnered. Gosh, 4 years ago, and
Mhm.
said, we really need to grow CTE because we believe that this is what's best for kids. And I tell you what, Sylvester, it wasn't a popular decision. We had a lot of people, a lot of teachers really entrenched in the traditional mindset that college is where every kid needs to go. And we said, well, sure, a lot of kids need to go to college for their career, but it needs to be the right fit. And so we went all in on finding right fit for kids, and having tiers within our pathways of, hey, our health science program that can go straight to a career. It can also go straight to a tech trade school. It can also go straight to four-year school, and anywhere in between. It leads to all of those things. And so every student is taking those classes rather than kids who maybe aren't college bound. But with that came, we needed more classes. We needed more teachers, because what we were seeing is kids were enjoying these classes. They were learning at higher rates, as evidenced on their standards and all the pieces that we've kind of always done within education. They were growing way faster, and their engagement was off the charts. So what we've done is we survey our students all the time. Of course, it used to only be at the end of courses, at the end of CTE classes. But we actually aren't doing it yet, but what we'll do next year is we'll survey them in the middle of class, like midterm. Hey, where are you at? Where are you at in your learning? Where are you at in your understanding? Would you recommend this class to another student? Right. So some of those types of classes midway through, not just kind of, I used to call it, in when I was teaching, used to call it like sucker punch grading at the end.
Right.
No, we want to know in the middle. Like, we want to know how you're doing, if you're getting anything. So that survey, and then we survey our students. What classes are you interested in learning about next? And that's a part of that survey. Is there something that you want that we don't have? We take that data and we run it into our schedule before we do any kind of staffing. And then if we get enough kids to sign up, we identify where that staffing needs to come from. So what Colton, the high school principal, and I did every year when we sit down for staffing, and we'll have some turnover. Of course, there's always turnover, people leaving to go teach where they live or whatever it might be. We look at, hey, are we going to replace that person with, for example, an English teacher? Or is that English position going to become a business teacher, because now we're teaching some English through business instead? We've been really fortunate that we have been able to do that, and put people in the best places to succeed, not only students but also staff. We have a great staff who's really, really flexible, but that wasn't always the case. We had to tell some great traditional teachers, hey, go find your happiness elsewhere. And that was the not popular part. They're good teachers, good people. Some of them were friends, but didn't have the mindset that said, hey, we're all in on a kid's future and their future, not what we think they need, what they're telling us they need. So, when a lot of schools, and in previous schools I've been at, say they let kids vote with their feet for scheduling, and they don't. They determine who their staffing is, and then determine what classes they're going to offer, and then just put kids in there. We don't do that, and I tell you what, it makes scheduling a nightmare. But I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but it's
no, keep going. Because I think because you're really touching on something that quietly is in a lot of people's thoughts and probably keeping them up at night, like where you want to innovate and you see an idea that would work for your district, but then there's the teacher part, right? It's like, well, how do we get the buy-in, So like maybe go a little deeper on that, like for the ones who didn't have to find their happiness elsewhere, how did you approach getting buy-in terms of the flexibility and not just doing things as you've always done for the teachers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it started off with a shout out to Shane and Colton. I think
Okay.
Colton, as the building principal, is the best I've ever seen it at in improving people. And sometimes that's improving them to choose elsewhere. Sometimes that's improving them to think differently with mindset work. But with he and I, we were relentless. We decided this is what we want because it's what's best for kids. And we push staff to really think differently. And the swinging tide, there's 30, and it's almost half of our staff at the high school level are now CTE teachers. The other thing we've done is we've identified really stellar teacher leaders in other departments. I keep using English because that's
Okay.
fresh on my mind. One of our very best English teachers, and we have a great English department. One of our best English teachers said that she was interested in teaching what it's called a launch class. It's a high school launch
Okay.
class. A lot of schools have like a careers class.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that plus advisory. She
Okay.
was interested in teaching that, and it's a CTE class. And she's a teacher leader in the English department. And when she said, I want to go CTE because I'm interested in doing this class because I want to teach for incoming freshmen the skills they need to be successful in high school, as well as the understanding of all the pathways. And that's a whole nother topic. Maybe ask me about our launch classes. But
Yeah.
she became a leader within that department, but had gone CTE, and so was able to talk to her colleagues in a way that they understood about why this is important and what this is doing for kids. And so it's sort of that grassroots. I could talk till I'm blue in the face about why CTE is important, but when you take a leader who's already trusted, who's already doing the great work, and empowering them to talk to their colleagues about the importance of this work, I mean, that was a game changer. And we've done that with, 3 or 4 teachers now, who have said, you know what, I want to jump on the CTE train. This is what's best for kids. I'm seeing higher levels of engagement. Kids are doing better learning their math class. We put in an engineering class with a traditional math teacher who's all in. Like, he's like, Jeff, I want to go full CTE. He
Yeah.
was teaching engineering and design and then algebra 1. And he goes, you know what? They're learning more math and engineering, and they're learning it at a faster rate, and they're having a great time doing it. I'm all in.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I love, I keep hearing this thing. I know we're talking a lot about CTE integration, but I'm also hearing a lot of interdisciplinary connections and not teaching in silos. You're making me think with that engineering class. One of our school partners that we provide curriculum for, Evanston in Chicago. It's a freshman class, and it's like algebra and entrepreneurship, and the kids
Sounds
love
cool.
it. And it's like you get them engaged, kids who are not excited about math traditionally, but then once you wrap it around something that they care about, you give them a chance to do something, and learning by doing, man, it opens up their eyes and gets them excited about those core subjects. Um, I do want to push on that. You referenced it, the launch classes. Talk to me about that and the connection to the internships and capstones with the pathways.
Yeah. So, a lot of schools have these. It's a careers class or a senior. Every senior takes it kind of end of year, where
Hmm.
they do a senior presentation or some kind of little wrap up. We've taken it to a different level. So we have grad launch. It's our senior class. We have high school
Okay.
launch, which is our freshman class. And actually, not next school year, but the following school year after that, we're going to add financial launch as a junior
Mm,
class, a required junior class.
I like it.
Um, so what we're trying to do is have courses at every grade level. Eventually, we'll have a sophomore one too. We're still looking at what that looks like, but checkpoints, right? We know that teachers have the largest impact on students when they see them every day. Our advisory system just isn't great. It's not long enough. It's not often enough. There are certain things you have to do in there. So we said, you know what? We need a class where freshmen and seniors are kind of learning how to be freshmen and seniors. Um, so we started with high school launch. We have district requirements for things like they have to do community service, they have to do a senior presentation. Those are great, so we put it in there. They have to do some kind of senior health type content.
Mhm.
But what makes this class different is we went all in on, okay, learning about the pathways. Where are you going? So what pathway are you in? We make every kid choose. Because the reality is, if you choose a pathway, you can take courses in any pathway, but that pathway gives us as the adults an idea of how to better serve you. So we really need to know the information. So they would go all in their grad launch class and talk about pathways, talk about what careers that pathway can lead to. They do all that exploration that's more driven to their future. What we're doing starting next year is we have enough students in two of our pathways now to have grad launch classes just in those specific pathways. So we have grad launch early childhood education, and we have grad launch health sciences. And we're integrating those classes first as sort of our pilot. This is, I know it's going to be successful because our teachers in those programs are just fantastic. But students will have internship opportunities in that class. So it's not just talking about what I could do. It's that, no, you're going to go do it. It's, hey, you want to be an early childhood educator. You're going to go be in the preschool. You're going to be in the preschool 2 days a week, 4 hours a day, something like that. And then when they do their senior presentation, they're going to present to a panel of people from that industry. So instead of just people from like educators or principals or, their parents who they're presenting to, no, they're going to present to a panel of people in the health industry. So when they say, here's what I want to do in my career, or here's where I'm thinking about going or thinking about doing to further my career, to start my career, to launch my career, these people can actually speak to that. They can say, hey, you should maybe think about going to this university or this training center instead. So they can help align kind of that student's thinking. So it can actually be a meaningful discussion for that student. Our plan is to have that essentially a capstone class in every single pathway. Right now, we're a trimester system. So right now it's just a trimester class, but our health science teachers are chomping at the bit. They say, hey, we could do this all year. We could do this 2 trimesters. We could do internships, right? So it's almost, I'm trying to pull the reins back. Okay, let's prove it. Let's make sure this works. Let's get it going right. And then make sure that we do things correctly. Let's kind of crawl before we walk and run. The other class is high school launch. I could talk about
go ahead.
that.
Tell me about, I want to hear about the high school launch. Yeah, that's what I was going to push. Go.
So this all started.
That one, high school launch is for incoming freshmen.
Yep.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So this came from a need for intervention. So we have a 9th grade success team, and I was a part of that team, and we found that our 9th graders weren't coming in with some of the requisite skills that you need to be a 9th grader. They didn't know credits. They didn't know pathways. They didn't know courses. They didn't know how to even like take notes. Just simple kind of executive functioning type skills. And I said, you're 100% right. We need that. Now, Sylvester, my thought was we need that earlier, right? We don't.
I was just about to ask you, like, now that you've innovated with this, when are you gonna push that back to 7th grade or 5th grade or something? But go ahead.
Well, don't let me forget that. I'm gonna tell you about what I'm thinking we're gonna do.
Okay.
So this class, we put it out there, and every 9th grader takes it. We have this year we had that English teacher I talked about. She is highly engaging. Fantastic teacher. Shout out to Nikki Alcaranda. She's fantastic.
All right, shout out to Nikki.
Yeah. Yep. But the other thing that she's done is she's adapted it to be student led. So not only is she teaching these executive functioning skills, but she's also, each week is a different pathway. So students sign up for which pathway they want to talk about or present on. They then go interview teachers in that pathway. They go interview students in that pathway, and they present to the entire class about course offerings, about kind of where the pathway leads, types of credentials that are offered, types of college credits you can get in the high school. So this is something that we used to do as educators, right? We would present all this stuff right before kids register, and they wouldn't listen. Right? They'd watch these great videos that we'd put together to spend all this time doing, and it would fall flat. we wouldn't get the results we wanted. We didn't get kids where they needed to go because they needed to hear from their peers. They needed to hear from students who were in the classes, what they were doing, and hear from the teachers too. Not just, a video of here's what we do, but go talk to the teacher, go see the robotics lab, go see the woods lab and metals lab, right? Go see those spaces, because as a freshman, you might not know what that looks like.
Mhm.
So
And that's
the other
you've
thing,
seen
Mhm.
results from that, right? Like once you
Yes.
get the peers involved, there's a greater connection and engagement.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we've had such great success with increasing enrollment in CTE, because now they have an understanding of what it actually means. It's not CTE, you look it up and it's like brain injuries.
Mhm,
There's,
mhm,
kids are like, what is CTE? But they're starting to understand what pathways are, right? Because
mhm.
that's what's relevant to them. This package that the adults have sort of put together and called it CTE doesn't make sense to kids. And so, but the package of, hey, health sciences, engineering and design, right? Those things make sense to kids because they start to see it.
How do you stay? Let's stay there for a minute. Best practices, because I so I have a 16-year-old son, and I notice sometimes I'm always asking him how he sees what we do as adults when we're trying our best to mentor, advise, teach,
Yeah.
and great people are in front of him. And he's like, yeah, but if they had done it this way, it would have made more sense or it would have been better. Give me some best practices around uh, unlocking that understanding of CTE for students. Like, what are you seeing works to do that?
Yeah, we're a big believer in SELA of multiple modalities. So I say standards firm, modality flexible. So the standard's going to be the same, but how you demonstrate your learning needs to be different in lots of different ways, lots of different assessments. But we ask the kids, what are ways that it's so funny. We teach kids all day, and high school students especially, but middle school and lower too, they know what they want. Now,
Mhm.
what they want and what we need them to get, that might be a little bit
Mhm.
misaligned. Uh, but why don't we trust them as a data point, right? School systems go all in on, we need data on this. Well, student, reports, anecdotal evidence, that's data too. Might not be the best data point, but it's data. And we need to actually listen to our students. So we're Vikings. So we have a thing called Thor's Council, where it's truly students lead the discussion. We ask them questions, right? It's high schools
Yeah.
do this, but it's what we do that's unique with the data. We actually make change based on what they say. It's not like this fake, hey, you're on Thor's Council, we're just doing it to check a box saying we're talking to kids. No, we actually are using that. That's why we changed our pathway and have a business and marketing and a hospitality instead of just one pathway.
That's so cool. So I'm also a Viking. My high school is Parkway North Vikings, but we did not have a Thor's Council. That's a good. I love the name of that.
Yeah.
That's solid, man. That's solid. But I love that. I think it's just that data point of asking the kids. It may not be attached to um the insight of, well, where's the trends of the jobs in the community, the future jobs.
Yeah.
However, it is a supremely valuable data point as it relates to engagement and
Yes.
how to, how they would prefer the delivery method or how it could be elevated. Yeah, so I'm man, that's so awesome that you guys are doing that. I want to move the conversation a little. Your future nights
Yeah.
transition program? What's that? What is that?
Oh
Explain that.
man. So this existed before I got there.
Okay.
But what we've done is we've really elevated this. And we have some plans to do this. I'll talk about the future plans with this. So our futures night is it's a night before registration where we invite all incoming 8th graders to the high school, and their families. I don't know, we had 250 students and families at our last one. COVID kind of was a weird, we had to do it virtually and it wasn't great. But what they do is students come in and they essentially tour the school, but it's not us running things. Of course, the teachers are there. It's students showing you our culinary space. It's students showing you our videography. It's showing off student projects. So we had in our computer science program, students built a digital whiteboard. They just had an off the shelf $200 TV and some augmented reality things around it. I don't even know what they are, but they were showing off, hey, here's what this project that we did in class, what it does. They were flying drones in the hallways. They were doing all these really engaging things, showing kids, hey, here's what these classes are. And then of course they get a little handout or some swag that says, hey, take these engineering classes. Here's the careers, here's the things they lead to. So we've had really great success about getting our students aware of what classes that we offer. It's just a piece of that plus high school launch, right? So it's all of these things integrate to help students really understand where things lead. Because we can go all in on passion and purpose, which is one of our kind of key phrases that we have at the high school. We can go all in on that, but if it's not relevant to the kids, all the passion in the world isn't going to help them kind of see and envision themselves in that future career. So that helps the relevance. I think that the bigger pieces too are some of our freshman classes are starting to go down and present at lower grades.
Yeah.
And this is kind of beyond
I think that makes a huge difference, man. That, like you're saying, and I hope people are picking up on that. Like, how can you, and also elevates the learning for the older kids too. Like, if you can teach it, then you know it, right? So it's like the learning that takes place from that and going deeper with the work. I'm curious. I'm gonna switch it just a little bit. I know our pre-conversation before we press record. We're recording this for anybody who's listening to this, just to kind of timestamp it. We're recording this in the summertime, right? So like this is supposed to be the off time for educators. What are you doing, man, to recharge, to come back pumped up for the school year, or any advice you have for educators on that?
Hey, great question, because I think that this is one of the things that's really affecting education in general. There's always more. There's always other things. I talk about futures night and I talk about, launch classes and all this planning and these leadership teams. And sometimes as teachers and educators, we feel like all this stuff's always piled upon us, right? And it is. Let's call it what it is. And I started off by saying one of my jobs as a leader is to take things off, right? And to remove barriers. But how do we do it for ourselves as leaders too?
Yes.
So fortunately, my contract, I can take off all of July. So my wife has to work in July. So I have two kids, Paisley and Noah, and
my son's named Noah too. That's cool.
Oh, look at that. So 13 and 10.
Okay.
And so I scheduled us because I've one of my kids loves routines and the other one doesn't. So it's sort of like my wife and I. And I said, hey, let's do things that are unique. So I said, let's do day trips. So Tuesdays is our adventure day where we go do a day trip. Wednesdays is like go eat somewhere that we've never been outside of our city. And then Thursdays is Lego day, because I said at the beginning, I'm kind of a Lego nut. I like to build. And so they get a new Lego set after they've done their chores, of course. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we do something as a family. So my wife gets to join us. But the kids started calling it Dad Month. So July is Dad Month because we just get to go adventure. And I'm in Washington State. So there's endless outdoor things we can go to, do little mini hikes. I really enjoy getting out there and seeing just the joy on their face, right? Where they're like, oh my gosh, look at that waterfall.
Yeah.
Or,
That's
we
good.
were at the Futures game and celebrity softball game in Seattle over the weekend. And, JoJo Siwa was there, and my daughter loves her, and my son
Yeah.
loves Mark Rober, and he was there. And so it's just fun.
Man, that's so cool. I love Dad Month, uh, the concept, but I'm hearing getting outdoors,
Mhm.
uh, family time, trying some new things that you maybe wouldn't have normally maybe have the time to do during the busy school
Mhm.
year. It's definitely for me too. I'm a nature guy. It's something about connecting with nature
Mhm.
that helps me to get centered and just kind of clear the mind. So
Yeah.
good stuff. Hopefully people are listening. Go do something.
Yeah.
Start your own dad month or mom month.
Yeah. Yeah. Heck
I
yeah.
like it. All right, man. Two final questions. Give me something tangible for someone, some best practices on the CTE integration. If they're really trying to move this forward in their district, what are maybe some starting points or some best practice?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things I didn't mention earlier, but your counseling group. The counselors are supposed to do, we use the ASCA model. It's a national model for counseling. Supposed to do career connected things throughout a student's career in the school, right? So pre-K through 12, you're supposed to be doing a lot of career connected learning. That's a really low hanging fruit. But what we did is we brought our counselors together and said, hey, what are you doing? Spaghetti against the wall. What are you doing in preschool to talk about careers? What are you doing in high school to talk about careers? And then everywhere in between. And and really what we found was people were doing a lot of great things, but none of it
Mhm.
was integrated. It wasn't like, hey, in preschool we talk about this, and then it grows to this in first grade, and then we weren't talking about it as a cohort. There was a lot of well-intentioned adults kind of going, I need to do some careers, and so they would do this, and then we would do a career day here and a career day here, and kids were getting a lot of the same information again. So then what we did, and what we're in the process of this still is looking at where are our gaps. We're not doing a lot of ag science. We
Mhm.
do a ton of health science. It's easy to get people in from that career field. We're not doing a lot of engineering and design, right? So we're finding these gaps, and then I come in and try to find people that can come in and talk to those things if we're doing a career day. Um, or we can start talking to some of our specialists. Hey, can you integrate some computer science into this lesson? So from there, we can identify really easy areas of growth, things that we need that can help improve our outcomes for our students' interest, our students' understanding, kind of beyond
Yeah.
the classroom.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Jeff. Those are definitely some good things for someone to take away and try to implement, because you do find that well intentioned, you're speaking on something, but you don't know what's happening at the middle school or at the high
Mhm.
school or elementary. But if you just get the people together, then we can try to align that so uh it has more of a flow to it throughout their educational journey for
And I think
sure.
people want to do that.
Yep.
I mean, people. We have phenomenal educators in obviously in CELA, but in the country. I mean, we have people
Hmm.
who want to work together, want to collaborate. So we need to offer them the time.
Yep.
And
100%.
you know what? Get out of their way.
Yeah,
uh,
you sound like you do a good job with that, man. Like from your just what I'm picking up from your leadership style is like you it seems like you try to create the space where good people can come in and collaborate and create and innovate and not like, hey, I'm not trying to stand in your way. I like that.
well, and I'll tell you what, that teachers recruit each other then, right?
Hmm.
So other districts are losing their people because they're not doing that, and we are. And so we're attracting great people, and we don't pay as much as some other districts, but people want that, right? They
Hmm.
want to be empowered, just like kids, right? I
Hmm.
mean, we say as adults we want to be empowered, but often we're not empowering kids in the classroom. And so, we need to do both.
So you feel like that's a good way to attract top talent, like top talent wants to be empowered and they want some autonomy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Solid. Okay. Last question. Last question. Um, can't wait. This is something I ask all the guests. What's your vision for the future of CTE?
Yeah. Well, this is crazy. I don't think CTE needs to exist in the future because CTE will be the future. Um, the way that we're going is that the traditional, and I say this from my heart, I was an English teacher. I love English. I don't think English is going to exist as it exists today.
Okay.
I think it's going to be CTE will just be how we do business.
Yes.
It will just be how we educate our kids. What's I think going to happen, and this maybe will be at the end of my career. But what's going to happen is at the elementary level, we do all this integration of content, right? We don't teach like math here and English here and science here. We integrate it, right? You're getting your English through science and through math, and you're integrating all of those concepts. CTE does that naturally. So why in high school did we go to this siloed method of instruction where, oh, I only do math over here and I'm not good at that, but I can do this engineering over here? What? It's all math. It's all, so I think what's really going to happen is we're going to see those silos fall, and we're going to see some integration of content, of curriculum. Uh, it's going to take a lot of hard work, and it's going to take kind of the traditional model of education of we're preparing you to go to a 4-year school. It's going to take that mindset leaving. I think parents still have that mindset. When I talk to parents, I talk to peers, right? My kids' friends' parents, right? I talk to them and they're like, well, I want my kid to go to a 4-year school. And I'm like, why? What are they going to do with that? What's the right fit for them? What do they want to do? Well, of course, they're 13. They don't know. But having that conversation early with the parents, they see college as this is just what you do. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I loved college. I went to college. I had a great experience. But I don't think that that's the best fit for everyone. And I don't think that the mindset that that's the best fit for everyone is healthy for kids. And so I see our education system really shifting from that traditional mindset to the integrated mindset. Let's talk about how engineering is math. You need math for engineering, but in engineering, you also have to be able to explain your process. That's communication. That's English skills. That's moving beyond, if like Sylvester, you said it, if kids can explain it, they're learning it in a greater way. So that integrated approach to that CTE does is why in SELA, teachers are flocking to it. Teachers are traditional teachers who already think outside the box, like I did, are going, yeah, that makes sense. Why aren't all of our classes like that? That's a direct quote from Nikki Alcaranda, our English teacher who went to CTE. Why aren't all of our classes like this? Right? Same thing. Our math teacher who went to the engineering route, he goes, kids are learning they're learning much better, right? They're way more engaged. Why aren't we doing this more? So, what we did? We added an applied geometry class the next year, right? So kids still need geometry because that's what the state says. But hey, you're going to go from engineering and design algebra to applied geometry. So now you're doing projects with the geometry, right? You're not just, doing math problems on paper.
Yeah, you have to make it real, man. Jeff, I feel like there's a part two to this conversation in our future because
I'll be happy to be
we
back.
we could just keep going. We could just keep going. But I don't want to interrupt Dad Month here. So we will put a pin in it for now. Jeff, thank you for all your insights. Thank you for the work that you're doing with our students in Washington. And hopefully the insights that you shared today will impact our learning community. If people want to connect with you, Jeff, man, how should they go about trying to do that?
Yeah, I mean, they're welcome to email me. I'll give you my school email. It's Jeff Cochran, Cochran at SELAH, SELAH schools.org. You can find me on all the kind of socials, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff too. Happy to connect, and gosh, I'll talk anything education for hours. I'd love to be back. We can talk. We didn't even talk dual language, some of those other cool things
I know. We need to we definitely need to get back and let's talk that as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you connect with Jeff. Share this with a friend. Don't be selfish. CT integration is important. It's something, so many insights that we share here that all of us could use in our district just to take it to the next level. Until the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.